Welcome. Let's just take a breath. Together, we're going to journey back in thought to a time before time itself. I want you to imagine, there's no sun, there's no land, there are only the waters. And they're not silent, they're humming. A vast, dark, cosmic ocean just shimmering with this coiled, latent energy. You can almost feel it, right? That low thrum of pure potential. That feeling that something absolutely immense is about to unfold. Because it is from this infinite liquid possibility that reality itself is about to be born. In this explainer, we are going to dive deep, so deep, into the ancient text that describes this very moment, and we're going to decode the divine command that filled that emptiness with life.
So here's our roadmap. Today, we're taking a complete journey through one of the most powerful and mysterious verses in all of Genesis. And to do that, we're going to use the ancient four-level method of interpretation. You might know it, it's called Pardes. We'll start right at the surface, the simple, literal meaning, the peshat. Then we'll start to uncover the hints, the remez, of something much deeper going on. From there, we dive into the allegorical story, the drash. And finally, we'll get to the sod, the secret core, the actual operating system of creation. It's a path, that's going to take us from primordial waters to a sea of pure wisdom, from birds and fish to the angelic forces that literally shape our reality, and ultimately, to the blueprint for the universe itself.
Okay, so let's begin where all true understanding has to begin, right at the surface, the pshat, the simple, literal meaning. Before we can even think about seeing the secrets, we have to honor what the words plainly say. So what does the text actually say? Let's just listen to the pure, unadorned power of the divine word as it was first written down.
Just listen to that language. It's absolutely explosive, isn't it? The key verb, the real engine here is yishritsu, let them swarm. This is not a gentle, let's create something, or a simple, let's make. No way. This is an eruption, an overwhelming, teeming, chaotic abundance. The image is just pure generative power. Countless creatures, a wild multiplicity of life forms just bursting forth from the waters. And then, in the very same breath, another dimension just opens right up. Birds taking flight, moving from the horizontal plane of the water into the vertical space, connecting the earth below and the heavens above. It's a scene of just immense, raw vitality. A whole universe of creatures set into motion by a single, divine command.
And now we go deeper. We descend to the second level, remez, which literally means hint. And it's here that the text starts to point to something far, far bigger. See, the mystics teach us that in the Torah, nothing is just what it seems to be. The physical is always a symbol. It's a garment for a much more profound spiritual reality. So we're not just looking at the water anymore, we're learning how to look through it.
Now, this quote from the Zohar, this changes everything. It's a foundational key that completely reframes our entire understanding. The primordial waters, they're not just H2O. They are a metaphor for the Torah itself, that infinite, boundless ocean of divine wisdom. I want you to picture it like the source code for the universe, the code from which all of reality, every law of physics, every spiritual principle is generated. So this isn't just a sea teeming with life, it's a sea of information, of pure, undifferentiated potential. Every single possibility that ever was or ever will be exists right there, inside this divine ocean of consciousness.
And boom, that is the exact question that unlocks the next level of our journey, right? If we accept that this water is actually the sea of divine consciousness, then the simple, literal idea of fish and birds just can't be the whole story anymore. It just can't. They must be symbols for something else, for forces that are operating within and above this incredible ocean of wisdom. And asking this very question is what propels us from the level of remez, the hint, into the amazing world of drash, the interpretive story.
So welcome to the level of drash. It's here that the verse literally transforms. It stops being a description of natural history and becomes a blueprint for the spiritual cosmos. It's a grand dynamic drama. And its characters? They're not fish and fowl. They are the angelic forces that actually govern reality. And the text itself, and its really unique structure, gives us all the clues we need to figure out who they are.
The ancient sages, they noticed something really peculiar here. It's a strange repetition in the Hebrew that, a casual reader will just fly right past. The verse doesn't just say, let birds fly. It says, let of, ye o yef. It uses two different but related words. You've got of, which is a noun. It means fowl or a flying thing. And then you have ye o yef, which is this intensified verb for the act of flying. Now, in mystical interpretation, there are no wasted words. This isn't just a stylistic choice. It's a code. It's a deliberate signal pointing to two totally distinct types of flying forces at play here.
And this is how the ancient texts just brilliantly crack this code. The Zohar and later commentaries, they directly map these two Hebrew terms to the two primary archangels who stand before the divine throne. That singular, more static noun, ophef, represents Michael. And the intensified, doubled verb, yofef, which implies a more powerful, a more purposeful, even a severe kind of flight, that represents Gabriel. And just like that, our cosmic drama now has its lead actors.
But here's the thing. Michael and Gabriel aren't alone. They are, you could say, the two most prominent wings of a much larger, fourfold structure. This is often called the divine chariot, the Merkabah. Think of it as a command system that manages the flow of energy from that infinite source, those waters of Torah, down into our finite world. And the rest of the verse, the sages teach, actually encodes the other two primary forces that complete this system. It gives us a full operational map.
Okay, everyone, this slide right here, this is the master map for our entire journey today. So let's really walk through this carefully. We've got the four archangels. First up, Michael, who's cued by that single word of. He represents the divine attribute or sephria of Chesed, that's unbounded loving-kindness. His element is water, color is white, and his whole job is to channel pure, merciful energy into creation. Next to him, we have Gabriel, cued by that intense verb yofef. He represents Gevura, strength, limitation, judgment. His element is fire, color is red, and his function is to set boundaries, to execute judgments, basically to contain that infinite flow of Chesed. Now for the other two. The verse goes on, al ha'artz, upon the earth. Well, this phrase hints at the archangel Raphael, whose name literally means God heals. He governs Tiferet, balance, beauty. His element is earth, color is green, and his function is to bring healing and harmony to our physical world, balancing Michael and Gabriel. And finally, the verse ends, al panei rakia hashamayim, upon the face of the firmament of heaven. This points to Uriel, light of God. He's associated with Hod, or splendor, the source of prophecy. His element is a mix of air and fire, color is gold, and his function is to bring revelation and divine light. This one verse, it's a complete schematic for the entire divine governance system. Incredible.
So let's dive a little deeper into each of these forces, starting with Michael's domain, Chesed. I want you to think of Chesed as the fundamental impulse of creation itself. It's like the Big Bang of love. It is pure, it is undiluted, infinite giving, without any boundaries or any limitations at all. It's the force that just says yes. Yes to life, yes to existence. It just radiates outward, wanting only to give and to sustain. And Michael is the great minister of this force. He's the conduit for this pure white light of mercy that's always flowing into the world.
But think about it. Infinite, unbounded light would completely overwhelm and shatter a finite creation. It needs a container. It needs structure. And that is where Gabriel and the force of Gevura come in. Now, Gevura is not evil. It is the absolutely necessary principle of contraction, of judgment, of limitation. It's the force that draws the lines. It sets the laws of physics. It creates structure. Think of it like a riverbank that contains a powerful, flooding river of Chesed, allowing that river to flow purposefully instead of just destroying everything in its path. Gabriel, the strong man of God, wields this power of discernment and severity, and it's represented by the color red, the color of fire, the color of judgment.
Okay, so now that we get this dynamic, this dance between the expansive force of Chesed and the contracting force of Gevura, we can see something absolutely incredible. There's this fascinating principle in the Talmud that says Michael comes in 1, Gabriel in 2. What does that mean? It means Michael's missions of mercy are usually straightforward, a single, direct act of blessing or salvation. But Gabriel's missions of judgment, they're often more complex, more severe. They require a doubled or intensified effort. And this is precisely what we see encoded in the grammar of the verse. Of is a singular noun for Michael's singular merciful action, and yefef is that doubled, intensified verb for Gabriel's powerful twofold action. The deep structure of the language perfectly mirrors the nature of their divine jobs. It's just perfect.
And now we arrive at the fourth and deepest level, Sod, the secret. Okay, so we've identified the players, the four angelic forces, and we know their primary roles. But now we have to ask the ultimate question. How does it all work? It's here that the verse reveals itself not just as a story or a map, but as the underlying operating system of reality itself, a living, breathing blueprint for the entire cosmos.
This is the crucial transition, you see? We're moving from the who and the what to the how.
We're shifting from metaphysics to mechanics, from theology to a kind of spiritual engineering. How does the command, "let the waters swarm," actually translate into the complex, multi-layered reality that we experience every single moment of our lives?
So here's how we can break this down as a four-step generative process, like a kind of cosmic engineering. Step 1, you have the source code. That's the waters, the sea of Torah, holding all potential information, every possibility for what could ever be. Step 2, you have the compile command. That's the divine utterance, "let there be." This kicks off the process and starts to turn all that potential into something actual. Step 3, you get horizontal processes. These are the swarming creatures, the charrettes. They represent the countless forms of life and events that are generated within a single plane of existence, like fish in the sea. And finally, step 4, you have the vertical interfaces. These are the birds, the Af. They represent forces that don't just swim around in one plane. No, they act as communication channels, APIs if you will, between the lower world of Earth and the upper command layers of heaven.
A really powerful way to get this today is through a tech analogy. It is almost spooky how well it fits. Think of the waters as a massive, generative cloud server, like a divine AWS or Google Cloud, just holding all potential data. Now, the swarming creatures, they're like millions of dynamic processes and apps running on that server, creating the rich, complex experience of our world. And the birds, those angelic forces like Michael and Gabriel, get this. They are the APIs. They're the higher-level executables. They're the functions that transmit data, execute commands, and manage the flow of information between the divine user and the entire created system. It's an unbelievably sophisticated model of an information-based universe, and it was described thousands of years ago. It's just wild.
The very word for swarming, shiritza, holds one of the deepest secrets. It doesn't just mean a lot of fish. It signifies the core principle of cosmic vitality itself, the unceasing, dynamic, abundant movement of life force. It is the very mechanism by which the unified, singular source, the water, differentiates itself into a near-infinite multiplicity of forms, all while staying connected to that source. And the Zohar teaches there's a vertical correspondence here. The teeming, swarming life in our lower worlds is the direct reflection of the teeming hosts of angels in the upper worlds. The constant movement, the shiritza, that is the life. Okay, so we've journeyed from the literal all the way to the secret. We now have this incredible model of a dynamic, information-based universe that's run by angelic forces. But what does any of this mean for us, for you and me, right here, right now? How do we actually interact with the system? Well, to make this really practical, let's explore two different user interfaces for living within this cosmic reality. One for the younger generation, or maybe just the young at heart, and one for the engineers among us.
First up, the video game version. Imagine you're playing level 5 of the game of creation. It's the water world. Your objective? Populate the sea and sky. Now, the gameplay has two modes. First, you generate millions of swarming creatures to fill out the world horizontally, but the real power, that comes from summoning your 4 flying allies who control the vertical commands. You've got Michael, he's the white mage, casting spells of healing and buffing your stats with pure kindness. You've got Gabriel, the red mage, a powerful warrior who can execute judgment attacks and set up defensive shields. Then there's Raphael, the green mage, who balances the elements and restores health to the land itself. And finally, you have Uriel, the gold mage, who illuminates the dark parts of the map and reveals hidden secrets and treasures. In this game, see, you're not just a player. You're a co-creator, choosing which forces to call upon.
And for the adults, let's go back to our cosmic engineering model. Because this system isn't just something to observe from a distance, it's a responsive, spiritual technology. And this means we are not passive. Our thoughts, our prayers, our intentions, our actions, those are the user inputs. So when we perform an act of selfless kindness, we are literally making an API call to Michael, drawing down the energy of chesed into our world. When we exercise self-discipline or stand up for what's just, we are invoking the API of Gabriel and Gevura. When we try to heal ourselves or our communities or the earth, we're interfacing with Raphael's frequency of Tifreher. And when we study and seek wisdom, we are calling upon Uriel's light of Had. We are active participants. We're co-engineers helping to shape the reality that is constantly being generated from the waters of creation. So this brings us to our final and I think most essential question. This verse isn't just describing a one-time event that happened billions of years ago. No, it's describing a system that is alive and operating right now in this very moment. Creation is a living, responsive system of information. And if that is true, then we have to ask ourselves, what data am I inputting today? What code am I writing with my actions, with my words, with my intentions? What reality am I, consciously or unconsciously, helping to generate?
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.